If this is your first episode of Classic Effects, in this series we take a look at effects and techniques from classic films and give you a chance along with Josh and Justin to guess how it was done before we tell you. We have a lot of films to get to today, so let's jump right in. Like we always do, I got a bunch of clips for you there. You're going to watch the clip and try to tell me how they did the effect at the time that they did it with what they had available to them.
Okie dokes.
And then I hit spacebar.
And then you hit spacebar. Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not sure.
It has to.
Some stop motion on a miniature.
Double exposure? Question mark?
Probably the most influential film from this time period is 1933's King Kong. It's one of those films that carved a clear path for special effects going forward, and many techniques used in Hollywood can be traced back to this film, like its use of rear projection. And the film used rear projection in two ways. First was having a set built in front of a large screen that would play back a stop-motion sequence of Kong or other creatures that was animated in advance, which allowed the actors to base their performance on something they could see, just like virtual production today. Then for sequences where Kong or other creatures were the primary focus, they shot the actors' bit first and built a small rear projection screen into their stop-motion set, similar to the technique The Abyss used 56 years later. And opposite to the first technique, the small projector allowed the animator Willis H. O'Brien to move the actor's image one frame at a time and have his animation react to his actual performance. In the end, King Kong made techniques like stop-motion, rear projection, miniatures, and animatronics work more popular and inspired legends like Ray Harryhausen, Steven Spielberg, Peter Jackson, Guillermo del Toro, James Cameron, and many more.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
That looks awesome.
Wow, this is like the dream sequence in Big Lebowski.
Whoa. Matte painting.
You have some sort of big moving stairwell, but then they extend it, and then the statues seem like perspective.
A Matter of Life and Death, originally known as Stairway to Heaven, is a 1946 British film that explored humanity from a post-World War point of view. One of the main special effects that the American title alludes to is a literal stairway to heaven. This effect was accomplished by using a combination of the real thing and miniatures. For shots that had the actors moving around, they created a full-size, 20-foot wide stairway with 106 steps, all connected to a motor so they could move the steps forward, back, or stop it. For the statues on either side, hanging miniatures were used, suspended and put close to the camera so that at the right angle you get this final excellent effect.
It's not an optical effect. It's actually shot at the same time as the production is shooting the scene. It's just that the miniatures are closer to the camera lens, and you can see some stills which were taken on the set. If you look at the top of the frame, you can see the statues are just hanging in the air. That's because from the right angle, they're lining up perfectly to sit on either side of the staircase.
For the wider shots, they created a much smaller model, which allowed them to create a greater length to the staircase that was then composited.
Yeah, I mean, just looks like they had their own little Roman Kentucky Derby.
That's gotta be matte paintings.
Did they have that set there from something else? I mean, that was the time period for shooting stuff like that.
Dude, that's crazy. I wanna say a mixture of miniature and matte paintings, or just matte paintings.
Unless it was a real Coliseum, but it feels like it was some miniature and matte painting.
The 1925 epic Ben-Hur was a monumental moment for the silent era of film. With the film taking place in Italy and the chariot race, which used up 200,000 feet of film, Ben-Hur is also the most expensive film produced during the silent era. Possibly the most impressive sequence in the film is that chariot race, which was shot with 42 camera operators, something that would not be seen again. But the big issue is that the sequence needed to take place in a massive coliseum, and MGM did not have the budget to build that full thing. So they built the first half, and like we saw in the last film, they used hanging miniatures to fill the rest. These hanging miniatures were placed about 12 to 15 feet away from the camera and lined up to blend in with the full set for a seamless extension. To add life and movement to the crowd in the miniature, the art team used dolls that were mounted on rods that would then be operated to go up and down on the openings of the side of the miniature. But also, with the miniatures hanging, it allowed the camera operators the freedom to pan during the filming to really sell those expansive shots.
Oh, these are old. These are old.
This is before PETA got involved in film.
Okay, the leopard she's actually pulling is definitely real.
I mean, the leopard when it's in there is real, but it's not necessarily with the actors because you can see the rope.
Oh, yeah, because you can even see the rope. Optical printing.
Filming with animals can be tricky, especially when that animal is a leopard. So for the 1936 film Bringing Up Baby starring Katharine Hepburn, they had started production with Hepburn and the leopard named Nisa acting together, which you can still see in a few scenes like this one where Hepburn is walking around her bedroom. They sprayed some perfume near Hepburn's knees so that Nisa would rub against it and make it look like an affectionate greeting. But after some safety concerns with the leopard swinging at Hepburn's robe, the filmmakers had to come up with ways to keep the two apart while appearing together. So they used glass partitions, which is very clear in this shot here. If you pause, you can see all the reflections wrecking the effect. Then there were stand-ins, puppets for moments where it lives more in the background, rear screen projection, like in this moment here in the jail, or more impressively, this shot in the car, and a lot of split screen like Josh and Justin both clued in on with this moment here, which, I mean, wasn't the most effective in the film, but there are plenty in the film that were very impressive with moving splits. There's a great video on Vimeo, link in the notes below, that shows a lot of this, including the different elements before they were composited together, like here with the shot of Grant, then the leopard, and then Hepburn. In the end, an optical printer was used to combine these shots with the moving mats. And you can clearly see the moving split we're talking about here as the leopard moves forward. We're only halfway through, but let's pause and thank today's sponsor, which is iVanky. I have a MacBook Pro M1 and I love it, but the problem with this Pro laptop is what everybody complained about when it came out. Only 2 USB-C ports, which is how you charge it as well. So if your battery is low, you have 1 USB-C port. And if you want to use a monitor, it gets even trickier. So I've always had to use docks, and this one, the Fusion Dock Max 1 from iVanky, is the best that I've used by far. It's sleek and looks good on my desk, and it's loaded with ports. Multiple USB-C and USB-A, HDMI, optical audio, Ethernet, line in and out, SD card, and micro SD card. The amount of cable fumbling this has taken out of my life is just glorious. I'm constantly needing to connect multiple drives, speakers, ingest footage from cards, and so on. So while I do love the ability for multiple monitors that this can do, which is up to 4 with 3 of them at 6K, the main thing for me is the connectivity and saving from juggling that I always have to do. I will say the Fusion Dock Max 1 is not compatible with the Intel MacBook Pros or any PC, Windows laptops, or Chrome laptops. This is specifically for Apple Silicon MacBook users like me. And like I said, it supports quad displays, making it the first and only docking station to champion a quad display MacBook setup, and you have dual Thunderbolt 4 chips to provide enhanced performance and versatility for various tasks, making operations faster and more powerful. So if you're needing something like this, check out the link in the notes below.
There's some real elements to the ship, but I'm pretty sure this was all green screen, right? And then they just, didn't he build a miniature?
He's pissed.
So cool, dude. Definitely miniatures.
Didn't he build a miniature version of this saucer?
One of the biggest challenges Spielberg ran into toward the end of Close Encounters production was how the mothership was going to look. He initially had the idea to have the ship be more of a black wedge, since he found the thought of a black mass moving through the night sky to be terrifying. However, when it came down to the actual creation of the ship, he said this.
Every day on the way back from location at night, I would pass this huge oil refinery with like 10,000 50-watt bulbs everywhere and tubes and pipes, and it was just so complicated and so industrial that I thought, rather than romancing the mothership with a piece of mystery blotting out the stars, why not let the mothership be this huge city in the sky?
So his team created a new design using model train parts along with other miscellaneous kits. And toward the end of the process, to fill out the ship more and make it feel more full, they started adding random things like little mailboxes, a submarine, Volkswagen bus, and even an R2-D2. And that fact is the entire reason I wanted to show this moment. For one of the greatest films ever made that was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, they used model train parts and miscellaneous stuff to make the ship for the climactic moment of the film, and I truly love that.
I love that we got some Indiana Jones up in here.
Indiana Jones, man. If he could only unbutton that shirt a little bit lower, I would like this a whole lot more.
He is wobbling all over the place. I would say green screen probably, because of how much he's moving around.
The rock formation feels like a miniature. With him standing on it just seems like green screen.
For our second Spielberg film on the list, this effect from The Last Crusade when Indy has to take a literal leap of faith is one of those shots that has always stuck with me, and was done with miniatures, matte paintings, and blue screen compositing. The first shot of Indy looking down at the bottomless pit was done using a matte painting and a miniature. The matte painting was acting as the background, and the miniature boot was a 1/3 scale of Harrison Ford's boot. With some light puppeteering, you would never guess that this wasn't actually Harrison Ford's foot. To film the rest of these invisible bridge shots, a 9-foot tall and 13-foot wide model of the bridge was created by Paul Houston and carefully placed in front of the camera so that it matched with the blue screen footage of Harrison Ford walking down the bridge. Using the classic technique of forced perspective, the filmmakers painted the bridge so that it would blend in and look invisible from the starting camera position. The camera move that reveals the bridge was crucial to selling the effect, so the move was figured out by the team at Industrial Light and Magic months prior so that the miniature artist had something to work off of. And because Harrison Ford was filmed on a blue screen, his shadow was lost and needed to be added back in using a stop-motion puppet. They animated the puppet to mimic Ford's movements, then split-screened the puppet out of the shot and kept his shadow, then added that to the final composite. Combine all these assets together and you have a vertigo-inducing sequence.
Wow, I guess Sylvester Stallone wearing a beret in The Expendables is a throwback.
I've never seen this.
The sparks are practical special effects, and then the blue bolts are CG.
It just seems like practical to me.
This is a funny one because the effect I love here isn't really seen in the movie. It's something that has stuck in my head since I saw it on the original Movie Magic episode in the 90s, which you can see the end result of in the wide shot here. This moment here, where Stallone is jumping out of the way of the laser, had an in-camera effect of the laser burning through the bars behind him. To create that illusion, the pyrotechnics team pre-cut the bars and added some flash paper in the gaps, which, for those who don't know, flash paper is a highly flammable piece of paper that ignites quickly and leaves very little residue. You'll often see it being used by magicians. Once the flash paper was in place, they painted it to match the bars and wired it up so that on cue it would appear as those bars were being disintegrated from the blast of the laser beam as it moved across, which that laser was added in post. It's so simple, but so awesome.
90s Arnold Schwarzenegger is unrivaled.
Arnold always finds himself in a pickle.
Who holds a gun like that? There's no way that that's fake.
I love the last looks before something where they go.
Also, there's no way that that's real. So my guess is they shot it on like a rig on top of a building outside.
Yeah, it feels like they have almost like a car rig with the behind the plane shot where they actually have a stuntman. They're able to manipulate the plane to kind of dip.
There are so many shots from True Lies worth talking about, but the way they handled the jet is one of my favorites. There's a mixture of techniques here, but the aspect that I love the most is that the filmmakers created a 47-foot long mock-up of a Harrier fighter jet out of fiberglass, set it on a steel structure that could then move using motion control, and all of this was done on top of a 20-story building. So in true James Cameron fashion, they really went for it, allowing the team to get a ton right in camera. Of course, miniatures, compositing, and green screen for shots looking down were all used to make the entire shot work, but having that physical jet in the sunlight that high up really does miles of work to make the whole scene memorable.
I just watched this. This really is like one of the best movies ever.
God, Joaquin Phoenix was perfect for this.
I want to say that it's CG, but the fact that it's in here makes me second guess myself. It kind of looks projected. I may just be overthinking this now. I'm like getting in my own head.
Yeah, didn't they have a real Coliseum of some kind that they didn't have to build?
I'm going to say it's projected because I'm overthinking and it should just be CG, but I'm going to say projection.
Gladiator has plenty of shots worthy to talk about, but today we are going to bookend this episode by talking about the Coliseum shot. In pre-production, Ridley Scott ran into some issues with the Coliseum design since it wasn't giving him the lighting pattern that he wanted. Originally, Scott wasn't interested in making this film until the producer Walter Parks showed him this painting, which excited Scott and gave him the inspiration for the look of the film. To solve the lighting issues, similar to Ben-Hur, the filmmakers built the first half of the set and filled it with around 2,000 background actors. But for the rest, instead of miniatures and dolls, CG was used to extend the set and fill in over 70,000 digital extras. And as a bonus fact, Ridley Scott started production on this film with only 21 pages of the script that were agreed on, and the rest of the film would go through drafts as they were shooting, which sounds stressful. But that is it for today. If you haven't seen our other classic film episodes, check those out in the playlist on our channel. And if you have some shots that you'd like to see us explain on the show, post those below. And until next time, don't forget to write, shoot, edit, repeat.